Well, hello there, ghouls and goblins and monsters of all kinds. Welcome to day 2 of the Monster Mash. I'm your host, Kristen Fagan with Softlex Company, and I am here with designer extraordinaire Jem Hawks. Hello, Jem.
Good afternoon to you all. I hope you're having a beautiful, beautiful day today. I have come as autumn.
I love it. I told her autumn is my favorite season. So you are currently my favorite person happening right now.
Hey, I'm the only other person in the room, but cool.
We got it. And I came, this is not quite my costume, but I will be full on leopard costume for my Halloween party tomorrow night. So I
Love it.
donned some ears and thought I would kind of come and hang with you. We do have some spooky guy in the background over here. I don't know if you're all catching him, but he's kind of peeking over my shoulder a little bit. Oh, Anne says, wow, love the autumn mask. It's amazing. It's so cool. Did you make it, Jem?
Kind of, yes. I went to basically the equivalent of dollar store and I found these pre-prepared leaves and a pack of 10 masks. I made it for about what would be equivalent to $1.20 with some double-sided sticky tape, and there, autumn.
Oh my gosh, it's even more amazing now that we know all of that. That is so cool. Oh, you're my hero. Now, next time I go to the dollar store and see some masks there, I'm going to have to grab them because you never know.
You never know what you can do with a little paper mask. The
Exactly.
opportunities for creativity are endless.
So cool. All right. So everyone who's joining us, welcome. This is the Monster Mash Jewelry Making Party with Softlex Company and our friends at Jesse James Beads. I'm hosting today with Jem Hawks for our first hour, and then we'll have Abbi Berta for our second hour. If you have gotten your kits, go make sure to go grab them. You've got a beautiful bead kit from Jesse James Beads. They are sold out of the bead kit, but you can still grab lots of different spooky mixes and strands on their website at jessejamesbeads.com. So you can always kind of play along with a different set of beads. And then you've got, I don't even have it together anymore because I've been using it, but you've also got the supply kit from Softlex Company, which has your craft wire that we will be using with Jem. It also has your Softlex beading wire that we're going to use again for the second hour, as well as some other bits and bobs of some spooky charms and findings and all of that good stuff. We still have a few supply kits left. I think maybe we have around 10 or so in stock. So you can get the supply kits with all of the wire and the findings and a few charms at softlexcompany.com. And what else was I going to say to that? Oh, I'm giving one away. That's what it was. So you'll see here, you see the hashtag, put in hashtag Wolfman, all one word, and you will be entered to win the giveaway for one of our supply kits. We're going to choose a winner at the end of Jem's presentation, going through her class. And then when Abbi comes on, we'll have a new hashtag and we will give away another kit at the end of her class. So stick around, lots and lots of fun. I see so many wonderful friends hanging out with us already. And if you don't know who Jem is, tell us a little bit about yourself, Jem.
Hi, my name is Jem. I live in the United Kingdom where I was born. I was born just outside Shakespeare, Stratford-upon-Avon. I've been making jewellery for about 13 years. Been specialising in wire for about 8 years now. I got into jewellery making as a way of dealing with grief, and it's helped me through a whole heck load of health issues and things, and I know that that is a common story amongst you beautiful creative people, and it's wonderful to be part of this community today where we can all pull together, hang out, make stuff, and just really enjoy this life that we have.
Thank you. It's true. This beading, creativity, all of it is super healing and really can help you get through like the toughest of times. It's just a beautiful way to focus. And it's also a beautiful way to make something out of nothing, which just feels super empowering and feels really good. It kind of brings everything down into that one moment. And it's just a lovely way to really heal and through the creative process. So I love that you shared that with all of us, because it's just a great thing to have, and it's wonderful to have all the time, and especially needed in those really stressful times, right? So
most definitely, if I'm sort of feeling at a bit of a loss and I don't know what to do with myself, I'll just make a pair of really simple earrings, and suddenly everything's just a little bit brighter.
Yeah, it just pushes that energy, moves that energy through the muck a little bit. So we've got here on the screen Jem Hawks YouTube channel, which is youtube.com, and then the @ Jem Hawks. So you can go check her out there. She's also hangs out on Facebook. Let me see if I can go grab that one. That was right here. So you can find her at Jem Hawks Jewelry on Facebook, and that's jewelry with 2 L's.
And all of the E's and everything. I'm sorry. Sorry.
All those extra letters in there.
I'm sorry. If all else fails, on my YouTube channel, I have a link tree which has all of my socials and shops and workshops, and just everything is there. So one-click link will take you to everywhere.
Fantastic. Fantastic. All right. So let's see what we're going to be making today, Jem.
Shall I flip you down to the other camera for a moment?
We sure can. And I'll spotlight you so you're on the big screen.
Lovely. Thank you so much. And I'm also just going to slip my mask off temporarily so that I can actually see what I'm doing.
Understandable.
So we are going to be looking at ways in which you can rosary link your beads. And this is the perfect wire and the perfect bead selection combination. My favorite color of wire to work with is copper. And this is an absolutely gorgeous wire to work with. I can't tell you, honestly, I've been through a lot of wires over the last sort of 10 years or so, and some of them are just a bit rubbish. This is perfect for the job that we are looking to do today. So I have got a little selection of cut segments of wire to work with. Now, the joy of rosary linking, once you get that technique down and mastered, you can take any beads from your stash and use them to create what I like to think of as jumble necklaces, jumble bracelets, and so on. So in the piece that I've made for us today, I've added a drop charm as well, which uses a different technique, which was a double simple loop. And because we were lucky enough to receive some clasps, we can use one of those clasps in our class today. But if we have time towards the end, what I will do is show you how you can make a little J clasp as an alternative, because sometimes it's really lovely to have a piece that's all handcrafted from wire. And sometimes you just need to bang in one of those beautiful clasps. And it's such a lovely color. It's almost a gunmetal, I want to say. I don't know if that's the correct terminology for that product, but that's what I'm going to call it. So you have to excuse my thumb. It's received a bit of an injury today. Please don't look at it.
just look away.
Just don't look at my thumb. It's fine. Everything's fine.
Oh, I'm so excited that you're going to share how to make a clasp with us too. I think that is such a wonderful skill to have when you've got some wire on
is,
there.
and it's something that I come back to time and time again. Hang on a minute. I'm just going to give you a sneaky peek of one of the types of clasps you can make with a slightly heavier wire. So this is an S clasp, which has been smashed flat with a hammer repeatedly until it's really, really strong and flat and spread out. And that's something perhaps I will put up on my YouTube, and you can grab that at a later date, but I will show you a very similar clasp to that. And this has just got some oversized gemstone beads on a piece of chain, and then you could use the J clasp, which I'll show you later, to create your own complete piece of jewelry. So wire working is perhaps new to some of you. I know I've seen some very familiar names, and welcome to this evening, and thank you for hanging out with us today. This afternoon, I'm sorry, it's this evening here in the UK. Many apologies.
That's why Jem was in a much spookier looking space than I was.
Oh yes, I almost put the cobwebs up at the back, but then I basically, the chaos has consumed all and I lost them.
I love that.
I don't know where the big sheet of cobwebs are. I'm so sorry.
And
So
I wanted to say that we did put in the bare copper wire specifically for you, Jem, because we know it's your favorite color. And because it's our bare copper, I think it's the only bare wire we carry. You can hammer it and do all of the other things that you want to do to this particular
absolutely can. Yeah. So one
wire.
thing I will show you very quickly, if I may, Kristen, is that this is made with, it's a bare copper also. It's a slightly heavier gauge. This is a 16 or 14, I forget now. And what you'll notice is the color is very different. And that's because bare copper has the opportunity to oxidize all by itself. So you don't have to necessarily put it in a foul smelling solution to darken it. As you wear it, it will kind of take on that natural patina. So that's another reason for working with a bare copper as well. I adore, it's just my favorite. I love it. It's something that transitions after you've completed the piece, and that to me is actually quite special. Probably getting bored looking at just my hand, sorry.
No, it's kind of fun. It's fun to share that because we do sell a lot of other colors that come in the enamel on top of it, so that the color stays and it does not tarnish, whereas this bare copper is different. And so it's good to understand why it's different and what the, you know, the beauty that it can do.
Most definitely. So this is a soft flex silver plated wire, and I made this probably a year or 2 years ago, and it's still bright and shiny. It's been handled, it's been demonstrated, it's been passed around classes of many people, and the difference is that it's still absolutely pristine. So there are reasons for using both your coated wire and your bare wires, but thank you for knowing me. It's very, very lovely to hear that.
You have been seen.
I have been seen. I love that. I absolutely love that. So let's tip out some charms. Now, in my demonstration piece, I chose the spider. Would you like to work with the spider or the... I don't actually know if any of these other charms have been claimed for use with other projects, but I feel that I'd quite like to use one of the other charms for the demonstration piece, and then you could either use the spider or you could use one of the others depending on what you've got.
I don't think anyone's using the mummy. I used the bats on my video on Monday, but that is okay. If you want to use the bat too, that is not a problem. So
I will pop them back up out the way and we'll work with the mummy because he's absolutely adorable.
He is really adorable.
So with the simple drop, when I'm making jewellery that sees a little bit more action, such as a bracelet, because it's on your wrist, it's out there and at risk of catching on things. So I tend to go for wrapped loops, but because I'm going to be showing you like 1,000 wrapped loops to see, well, not maybe 1,000, but you know what I mean. I thought I'd show you a simple loop on this one and just to see how quickly you can make drops with wire. So we're going to use one of these hematite colour rice beads, and this is the 18 gauge bare copper soft flex craft wire, and I've just cut it into just lengths at the moment to use. For this section you're only going to be using around about 1.5 inches to 2 inches. So what you can do is work from the end of the spool of the wire and only use as much as you need, and in that way you can be a thrifty person. I tend to be quite a thrifty person. Now I'm going to be using my memory wire pliers. The reason for this is that it gives me the opportunity to have an exact same size loop every single time. If you don't have those, your round nose pliers are absolutely perfect for the job. Would you prefer that I worked with the round nose pliers, because I feel like everybody has those? It's entirely up to you which ones.
Yeah, that's a good idea. I'm sure everyone does have those, so that would be great.
So what you can do, let me grab my marker pen. You can tell I used to work in live TV, right? So we weren't allowed to show any particular brand names. So I've had this marker pen a very long time.
This is just a marker pen.
Marker pen. You probably know which one it is, but there you go. So what you can do on your pliers is just put a little line over the surface, and you can rinse that off with nail polish remover if you want to, or I just tend to leave it there until I've worn it away by handling them. And in that way, you'll be able to get the same size loops again and again. So the first thing we're going to do is put the bead onto the wire, just in case you're working from the spool. You want to have zero waste. I work in a zero waste store Thursdays and Fridays, so it's kind of important to me. And what we're going to do is create a round form loop. So I'm just going to turn the pliers over at the point where I've put the little mark, and in that way I know that I'm going to get a repeatable size on that loop. So I've got the round form on the end there, and it's just touching the tail of the wire that's coming away, and I do that on purpose because it means I can grip the loop section, turn the wire away, and you get this perfect loop on the end. And I'm going to open and close my pliers on that loop because it gives me an opportunity to work harden that loop. Now, this is a beautiful soft wire to work with, and what we're looking to do here is to protect that loop from accidentally opening if your mummy tries to make a bid for freedom. So if I squish that loop several times, and I'm not overly crushing it, you don't need huge grip strength, just opening and closing, and then we're going to open it as if it was a jump ring. So we're just going to use half of that round form to just open him up slightly, and then pop your charm into position, closing in the same direction, making sure that that's closed up neatly, and then dropping down. So we've got the first half of our little charm. Now, there are two ways that you can make the other end of the charm. You can either create a right angle bend like so, and rotate your pliers around at the end of that bend, or you can estimate how much wire you think it will take and trim away. If you're working with the reel of wire on the end here, it can be a little bit distracting on screen, which is why I'm working with cut lengths. So I'm just going to estimate how much of that wire I think it will take to create that loop. So if I cut like so and just pop that tail away for a second, I'm going to grab my trusty ruler. And is it better to do this in inches? So that is just under ½ an inch that I've left available. And if I pop my pliers in onto that little black mark I've made and rotate the wire around, closing that back up, you can see that that ½ inch section was just enough to create the perfect loop. And again, I'm going to make sure that the cut end meets the angle. So you can see at the moment there's a teeny tiny gap. If I put my nail up inside, there's a teeny tiny gap. So I'm going to close that gap up and squish really firmly. So now we have got our charm, and you can use that in earrings every day of the week because hopefully they won't be catching on anything. And in certain ways, if you're making earrings, it's almost better to have them which will pull away so that you protect your earlobes. So the next thing we're going to do is to create our first rosary wrapped link. And I think this piece of wire will be long enough. Actually, one that's just slightly longer. So because I'm going to add on a couple of extra beads and my charm, this piece is just under 4 inches in length. And what I would normally do is just warm that wire through. Now, you don't need to do that a huge amount because of the quality of the wire that we're working with. It's absolutely gorgeous, and it comes on the spool basically ready to go. So what I tend to do is run that between thumb and forefinger once or twice. If it's not your dogs, it's going to be my dogs. So what I would normally encourage at this juncture is to trim the wire away with the flush side of those cutters before beginning. But because I plan on trimming this wire after we've added those beads and we've done some rotations at either end, I'm not going to worry about it at the moment. The doggies are barking at the moon. So I think we'll start with a pair of these pink beads. So I'm going to slide one of those on, and they're gorgeous because they've got this hint of metallic. And I love jewellery that you can rotate and move around and you get those different effects. We're then going to slide the chain on. Sorry, not the chain, the charm. I can say words sometimes. Sometimes they're even right. And then I'm going to put the second bead on. Now, as you can see from the bead mix, you have got bazooka loads of choices about which beads you can use. You can completely change the color scheme. You can go bling. You can use these huge pumpkins. There's loads to choose from in your mix. So what the next thing is that we're going to do is to create our first rosary link. With rosary linking, it's a fantastic skill to acquire and to be able to do well. Hello, Shakisha, how are you, darling? Because it means you can use up odds and ends from your bead mixes. If you're anything like me, hold on. This is just this week's bead mixes. So I have got boxes of them. What we're going to do is to centralize on that 4-inch length our 2 beads and the charm, and I'm going to use my bent chain nose pliers. Now you can use standard chain nose pliers if it's easier. I use bent chain nose because it's easier for me to show you on screen. I can grip the wire from underneath and you can see everything that's happening. Don't feel that you need to have them. Standard chain nose are fine. So what I'm going to do is push the wire up at one end like so. And you'll notice that there's a gap between the bead and the angle that I've created here. So if I just slide that over the top for a second, hold that in position and pop my pliers on the other end. Now, as long as it's pretty much in the center, it doesn't really matter. Doesn't really matter. So I'm going to turn this wire up in the opposite direction. So they are at 90 degrees to each other. Now, what this enables to happen is just basically for the chain to sit a little bit more freely on the wrist. So I tend to do them at 90-degree angles to each other. In my demonstration piece, to allow for better photography, they're all flat. So they're all in the same orientation. At the end of the day, this is not the most important thing that you will do tonight or this afternoon even, or if you're in Hawaii this morning. I don't know where you all are. So we have got gaps on either side of our collection of beads. And then we've got right angles turning away. So because I want to retain that same size loop every time, what I'm going to do is scooch the beads over to one end, grab those round nose pliers, pop it at the black mark on my round nose pliers and just rotate the wire around. So when I'm making loops, I tend to do this in 2 stages. So I've got the first half of my loop done already. Pop those pliers back in. The reason I do it in 2 stages is because it forces me to slow down. And if I slow down, I know I will make neater loops. So that's a little bit of an open coil at the moment. That's absolutely fine. That will be really useful later. For right now, I'm just going to close that down slightly. Now, if your loop isn't centralized on the end of your straight line, the core wire that goes through those beads, you can simply move that over a little bit. I'm going to show you how to create wrapped loops in just a moment. So to begin with, I'm going to grip my circular form and I'm going to bring the tail of wire, which I'm just putting a little bit of warmth into. I'm going to draw that all the way around 1.5 times. So up and over. So that's wrapped all the way around the core wire 1.5 times. Let's get that properly into the light so you can see it, like so. And I'm just going to give that a very tentative, gentle squish just to hold it in position. Now, it's very tempting to start rotating around and using up all that wire. What happens if you do that is you end up with loads of coils on one end and you don't have enough space to do your coils on the other end. So if I flip this around to the other side now, we're going to do the exact same thing. And you will find your part, your way, which makes you happy. Whichever way makes you happy is the way that you need to be operating. So like I say, I do 2 operations to create the loop. First, I make the first half, and then I draw the tail around and over the angle change. So I've got 2 loops now. And the next thing that I will do is rotate 1.5 times with this tail of wire. So that's 1.5 times round. So you can see we're starting to close up the gap. Now, the reason I do this in stages is because it means I can rotate around 1 more time on this end, I think. And you may prefer to use 2 sets of flat facing pliers to help you with this. So I've got my standard chain nose pliers and I've got my bent chain nose pliers. I'm going to hold across that loop now. And this is really key to kind of understand how that works at this stage when there's nothing else in the way. So is that focal length okay on the camera? You can see everything is looking smart. So I'm holding across that circular form that we've created. I'm not crushing down anywhere that wires cross over one another. So I'm going to draw that tail of wire around another time. So doing this slowly will result in nice, neat coils. And also, if I do it slowly, it means that you get to see most of what's happening. So all the way around and again, and I'm just doing little nibbles with the pliers to get that second half turn. So we're going to flip to the other end, like so. And again, apologies for my thumb, it took a beating. Don't look. So we're going to do the exact same thing at this end now and rotate all the way around again with that second wire. The reason I do a little bit at a time rather is so that we can get the exact same number of coils at either end. It can be the difference between a sail and not a sail to have that level of attention to detail. So I've got a tiny amount of space. So before I go any further, I'm going to just trim flush this little tiny tail. Now I put my finger very close to the end of my flush cutters. This is so that the tiny bit of wire I'm trimming doesn't ping up and hit the camera. I urge you to please take care of your fingertips and be very careful when you're just taking that last little bit away. So there's the tiniest little amount there, which is going into my melt pot. And what we're then going to do is to support this end section again, not pressing down anywhere that two wires cross over one another, but just holding that loop. And I'm just going to very, very gently nibble at that wire with my second pair of pliers until it sits flat against that core. And if I flip the piece around, we should be able to do another half turn with the second section of wire. So I'm glad I went for the slightly longer piece of wire. Otherwise we wouldn't have very many rotations. So I've got another half to go with this one. Always being careful of your beads. And what we're going to do is just trim that last little section away. Pop that in the melt pot, and you can see that we've got a teeny tiny sticky uppy bit just there. If I rotate that against my finger, you can see the difference in colour. So we want that to be flat and flush to the core. So again, I'm going to support against that loop. It might be better if I do that up the other way. You'll be able to see the action then. And there we go. So the sticky uppy bit is just here. What we're going to do is very, very softly bring that down against the core. When it sits down flush against the core, what we're going to do is just rotate those pliers around in the direction that the wire is moving. So the wire's coming over the top and then it truncates just over the top. So if I smooth those pliers around, what I'm doing is I'm softening the end of that cut wire. And in that way, it makes it much less likely to catch on your clothes or anything else. Now, when you're making a necklace, all of your sections, all of your beaded rosary links can be nice and straight. When you're making a bracelet, sometimes it's quite nice to just put a teeny tiny bit of curvature in them, especially if you go completely mad and you have great big long lengths like this one. Now you don't have to have long pieces in your rosary links. You could go for individual beads every time. It's a beautiful wire to work with, so you can do exactly what it is that makes you happy, basically. So the technique to add in the next link is going to be repeated all the way around. So I'm just going to grab that short section of wire and do an individual bead. And I'll show you how you build on your rosary linking. So again, I'm just going to give that a very, very quick little warm. This is a much shorter piece of wire, very suitable for a single bead. That's 2¼ inches in length. And again, I'm not going to worry about adding any flush cuts at the end just yet. These are absolutely delightful. It's like a cube and it's almost like a baby pink, but with veins of fuchsia running through it. And you've got really cool little facets on it as well. Lovely little bead. So again, the starting position is the same. We centralize the bead on our section of wire, and we have our turns of wire coming away. If you don't want to do them in 90-degree opposing angles, you don't have to. It doesn't matter. They can be completely flat. It's absolutely fine. So you can see I've left enough space either side of that bead to add in some rotations like we did on the first piece. But it's really important to understand how to build on your rosary wire. So we're going to do a very similar thing right now, which is to create that round form. I'm just going to whiz that wire over the top and squish that down into position. And what I'm going to do here is to create a closed loop, exactly as we did on either side of the little mummy segment. So if I hold that loop in position, incidentally, if you feel that your loop has become a little bit too small or isn't centralized, you can just open that up slightly if you need to, or indeed you can close it back down if it becomes slightly too large. So what we can do is crimp that into position with your pliers, holding it flush and flat. I'm not pressing where the one wire crosses over the junction. And the reason for making that such an empathetic plie, empathetic, that's not the right word, is it? Emphatic. There you go. The emphatic plie behind this is that if you squish one wire on top of the other, in this situation, you're likely to weaken the joint of the wire underneath, and we don't want any weak joints in our jewellery. So I'm going to whiz that around 1.5 times to begin with, like so. If, incidentally, if I lift this up, you can see there's a bit of a gap going on between your round section at the end and as the wire comes down the core. If that happens to you, and it does, you can very simply squish that up. It takes a moment to get that nice and neat and tidy. So that's gone around 1.5 times. So we're going to now make the round form on the other end. So again, I'm using those black marks from my marker pen on my pliers, and we're going to create a round form. So I do tend to do that in 2 maneuvers, but you can do that all in one when you're happy and familiar with it. And what we're going to do is, you can see I've closed up that loop at the moment, so it's just sitting over the top. What we need to do is just open that up slightly, and the safest way to do that is to treat it like a jump ring. So just open it up so you've got the gap up here between the angle and the loop itself. And this is how we build the chain. So I just knocked my pliers out of the way, sorry about that. So let's grab one side of our little mummy dangly charm bit. And what we're going to do, and this has a lovely noise to it. I think somebody just mentioned a second ago that you can build all the stations and then connect them. So you absolutely can. But what I would say is, if you build every other station, so you build the central one, and then you'd build your 2 next sections, but don't do these ones yet. So build every other station, get them all lined up, and then we connect them. So you would need to have 2 open ends to connect them. But what I'm doing today is building from the middle. So if we find the open side of that little station, slide that all the way down, and it will flip over, and hopefully listen. There's always a really cool noise. I brought that up for the audio, by the way, not so it went blurry, but you get this lovely little snicked noise as it flips into position. Once it is connected, and you can see that that's just gone down into the not yet wrapped loop, you can press that down by hand. This is a testament to the quality of the wire that we're working with. Not all wires are created equal. Softflex craft wire in the bare copper is just absolutely gorgeous. So what we need to do now is repeat the same technique as we did at the head of the demonstration. So in order to do this effectively, what we're going to do is grip across the loop, and I'm going to bring that up slightly. Now the focal distance of my camera is set a little bit lower so that you can see most of what's happening most of the time. But the point here is that I can still move the completed rosary link on the left side of your screen. I'm not putting any pressure down on that link, and I'm not putting any pressure down on the wire that crosses over the core wire at that angle change. So if I push that wire all the way around the core, I'm going to flip to my left hand holding. I'm right dominant, so you can do whichever way suits you best. I'm going to draw the wire around that tail. And again, the slower you are with this, the neater your end product will be. So I'm going to give that a bit of a squish to help it get over the hump. Draw that all the way around another time. And what we're going to do is fill the space either side of our second bead. So I've got 2.5 wraps visible on the left side of my bead. So I'm going to drop that out of position for a second, and then grip the other side, and we're going to rotate this side of the wire around the core now. Now, this is one of the issues with demonstrating, is that things get in the way, but it's important for me to show you how to build the whole project, not just to show you one simple technique and leave it at that. So let's go all the way around until we've got a teeny tiny bit left. Now, because there's a teeny tiny bit left and it's not been cut smooth, I leave that to the last second to reduce wastage. Again, I urge you to please not put your fingertips in the cutting zone. I'm just going to let you know one more time, the reason I do that is because it stops my camera from getting hit by bits of stray wire. So please be careful with your fingertips. They are precious articles. And as jewelers, jewellery makers, hobbyists, whatever it is that you choose to define yourself as, your fingertips are important. So I'm going to finish off by just squishing that wire around a little bit until it fills the gap. And again, I'm going to rotate in the direction of the wire just to smooth that end section over. Flip to the other side. Sorry about my thumb, it took a beating. And then smooth this side down as well. So the technique from here on in remains very similar until you get to the end of the bracelet. So what I think we'll do, if you can use your imaginations to repeat on the far side what I do on the one side, I think will be golden, and you can either watch back on the replay, or you by that time probably will be very well versed in rosary linking. So let's build up the next section and add it on. So this section is a little bit longer because I'm going to stack and rack some beads onto it. So let's give that a nice smooth through, give it a quick measure. Just a little over 6.5 inches. So for this one, I want quite a lot of beads. So I've gone for the pink cubes. So they're kind of cuboid, but kind of not. They've got these lovely round facets and veins in them. And then I've gone for a blue on this piece. Then we're going to use one of these gorgeous bead caps. Everything's rolling around. It's par for the course on my desk. Everything does go crazy. One of these beautiful gunmetal black pumpkins, and then just repeat in the opposite direction. Now, I love to see a little bit of symmetry in some of my jewellery, and then other jewellery just goes completely crazy. And as I mentioned to you earlier, bead soup, bead stash, perfect for rosary linking. I'm just going to tidy these up out of the way so I don't knock them flying.
It's always great to have a design that works with a bead soup, because we have so many of those around, don't we?
Oh my gosh, yes. Did I show you? This is just this week's bead soup. That's just this week's bead soup. So there's always bead soup. And it's great.
You've been mentioning that it's called like a rosary link. So what does that mean exactly? Does that mean because they are wire wrapped together?
The technique of linking beads with stations, I don't know where it comes from, whether it comes from a Catholic rosary. I once made a mala necklace which has 108 beads in it using rosary linking. I definitely got repetitive strain injury that day. As to why it's called rosary, I don't know, but the basic is that you are connecting bead stations together.
Awesome. Thank you.
So as to the etymology of it, I really don't know. I'm sorry.
No, that's okay. I wasn't sure, where it stemmed from and what made it a rosary link, versus just a regular link. So
I'm not 100% sure. If it's problematic for you to refer to it as a rosary link, you can call it a double wrapped loop.
A double wrapped loop. Okay, cool.
So what we're doing is we've got a wrapped loop on either end and a bar in the center. So I'm going to show you that rosary linking technique one more time. And you can, with your imagination, imagine that the other side is being completed as well. But I don't want to bore you silly with the same technique umpteen times. I don't know if umpteen is an expression that you guys use in the States. It just means more than necessary.
Yes, for sure. I like watching how you're making these little perpendicular lines up as well. I don't know that I always remember to do that, and it's helpful.
It's not necessary, but what you'll find, and I don't know the magic behind it, but the chain sits a little bit less higgledy-piggledy. Gosh, I'm bringing out all the Britishisms. I'm really sorry. I'm not doing it on purpose, I promise. Hello, Mary Poppins. I don't know. I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
Well, I personally love it because I'm obsessed with watching all British television, and I just find it. And someone said here that your voice is very soothing. I do. I find the accent and all the words you use very soothing to listen to. So bring them all. Bring them all out.
Very, very kind of you. Thank you. So Robin is asking what gauge wire we're using. It's the 18 gauge bare copper from the Spooktacular kit. So that you will have had one of these, and you will also have had 26 gauge, which is another favourite wire. I love to talk, so I'm really pleased that nobody is sticking their fingers in their ears.
Terry is actually asking you to please record some audiobooks. So.
Well, I am a voiceover artist, but
are you?
Feel free to get in touch if you have an audiobook you'd like me to read.
That's fantastic. I did not know that, and it makes perfect sense. You have a beautiful voice.
That's so kind of you. Thank you. I'm going to blush now. I'll have to put my little autumn mask back on. So what I'm going to do with this one is imagine it's the last link on my chain. So if this is the last link, whether it's a necklace or a bracelet, what we're going to do is to start on the one side, we're going to make the regular sized loop, draw that wire all the way around like so, exactly the same way as we have done the preceding 2 times. I'm going to give that a quick straighten and strengthen because I think I slightly massacred it. It didn't go terribly well just then. So that's nice and straight and smooth now. We're going to add this end onto our chain. And we're going to assume that this is the last section that we're going to make on the chain. So let's just wrap that around a couple of times to get it holding in place. So once you get adept at this, you will be able to kind of develop the strength that you need in your fingers. But as I demonstrated to you earlier, if you get little openings in the coils, closing them up sooner rather than later is beneficial. So I'm going to put one side of my pliers inside the loop and the other at the end of the short coil, very gently bringing them together. You've immediately solved the issue. So you can give that a teeny tiny squish. That can just be sitting holding now. So because I want to show you how to create a J hook instead of using the clasp, which was so beautifully provided and matches everything so gorgeously, if you were going to use this, you would simply make a loop exactly the same size. And instead of putting the link of the chain in, you'd put this through. And these fit perfectly on the 18 gauge wire. So there's no issue with using that. But what I'm going to do is demonstrate something different to you so you get extra value added. So let us create a much larger loop. So I'm going to go all the way down to the base of my round nose pliers. You could use your bail makers if you have them. If you don't have them, then a skinny pencil. I'll also show you, if you make a loop and actually you don't have anything to hand and it's not quite big enough for what you want, you can make it as large as your pliers will allow and then gently prise it open. It's a quality of wire thing. You can't do that with all wires, but look, you can see that I've made that larger than the largest section on my round nose pliers just by opening it up slightly. So it's a beautiful wire to work with. So once I've decided this is the last loop and I'm going to make a J hook to go into this, needs to be a reasonable size. So let's give that a squish. I'm happy with the size of my loop, my end section, and I'm going to rotate that wire around quite quickly. If you get those gaps, again, you can just switch, close them up. And I'm going to go for one more wrap on this side before I flip to the other side. Support across the loop. Don't press down where the wires cross. Don't squish your next connected loop. And I think I've got 4 on this side. I'm going to just tidy those up a little bit. And then back to the other side. And I think probably if I bring that round one more time in complete rotation, that's pretty much filled the wire up neatly. So if I now trim this away, grab the right tools, you can't actually cut the wire with round nose pliers as much as you try. Believe you me, I have picked up the wrong pliers many times. So I'm just going to give that a very gentle squish, and again, rotating in the direction that the wire travels, you can smooth that last little bit down. And whenever I'm making jewellery to sell or gift, I always give it a little bit of a sensory test. And if that doesn't make my hairs stick up on the back of my neck, I know I've done it right. So we're going to completely fill this side, just to make sure that the beads don't swoosh around all over the shop. So I think it's not going to turn very much more, maybe half a turn. There we go. So let's again carefully trim away. Be careful that you don't accidentally catch one of your ready-made loops. At the end of the day, there's a lot of wire on this reel. So if you do accidentally trim a bit that you didn't want to trim, you've got plenty of wire to work with. So again, give that a gentle squish to get it down, and then rotate around in the direction that the wire is traveling, and you can give that a really lovely, soft, professional finish. So if you repeat everything that we have done on the one side, on the other side, and again, you can, because it's a bracelet, just give that a little bit of curvature. Repeat everything on the other side, then you will have your bracelet complete. Now, to make that J hook, let's just scooch that up and out of the way for a second. Now I've got far more wire than I need, but it's already been cut, so it's ready to go. I'm going to give this a lovely warm through. Now, to make a J hook that is balanced with the jewellery you're creating is really helpful. If you've got a great big whacking necklace with 40,000 beads on it, you're not going to want a teeny tiny J hook. If you've got a really chunky bracelet, again, you're not going to want a really teeny tiny clasp. So I've just smoothed through my wire. I am working with 6.5 inches of wire, and again, it's the bare copper 18 gauge. It's more than I need, but that's absolutely fine. So what we're going to do is start by trimming away the very, very end section to make sure that it's good and smooth. The first tool I'm going to use are my round nose pliers, and what I want is the tiniest, smallest little loop I can muster. So the absolute tip of those round nose pliers turned around with control where possible. So it doesn't need to completely hit the strand of wire, but it's helpful if it closes up slightly. So teeny tiny loop on one end, give that a really firm squish and just a little way along. So you can use a pencil for this next section. I'm going to grab my bail making pliers because I want to show you a good job of doing it, but you can use a pencil for this next section. So we've got the loop, and I'm going to turn that up towards the camera. I'm going to use number 5 on my bail makers, which I think is about 8 millimeters. I don't know what that is in inches. I'm going to draw the wire around and underneath. So once I remove the pliers, you'll be able to see that much more easily. So we have a bit of a shepherd's crook shape. Now I think I've made the distance between the small loop and the top up there a little bit too large. And that's something that I often do. So if that happens to you, you put your round form back in. If I flip this over to the other side, what we're going to do is push the loop over the top and gently coerce the wire back off the other side. And you can see that we've shrunk that down. So it's a not much, but it's a smaller distance between the teeny tiny loop and the bulbous arc up at the top. So what we're going to do now is smooth that wire through again, get some lovely warmth and fluidity. And I just want this arc of wire to touch. So what you can do to achieve that is just fold the loop underneath the arc of wire and then just lift it back up again. I'm going to give that a squish with my pliers, just as a little bit of work hardening to hold it in position. Once I'm happy with the size of my crook, and what will happen is that will go through the loop. So let's just slide that in. Basic hook and loop situation. What I'm going to do now is to straighten up the angle just past where it touches that round form at the beginning where we started from. So if I just give that a bit of a squish and a squeeze to get that a little bit straighter, what we're going to do now is assess what we're going to link this into. So if I yoink this off the end, actually, do you know what? I'm going to put it on here. So we're going to make the world's teeny tiniest bracelet. So if I imagine that this is the other end of the chain I'm working with, that's what we're going to link into. It's not going to look terribly wonderful, but you'll be able to see the technique. So I'm going to just make sure that I'm happy with that straight section. Now, if you have a hammer and block, it does definitely pay you to just hammer this very, very gently. Even if you've got a work person's hammer from the garage, just give that a bit of a gentle tap on a solid surface to get some strength into it. What we don't want happening is this to be coming open in wear. You can apply a reasonable amount of pressure over the surface of your wire by hand. If you struggle with grip strength, you can press this down into the desk using any flat pliers. So my technique for that, I have arthritis in my left wrist and in some of my right fingers, is I will put the pliers down on the board sideways and I will apply pressure like so. So there are ways and means for us to achieve the things we want to achieve, even if our body sometimes says no. You can also open and close your pliers repeatedly. And you can hear the noise that I'm making. I want you to hear that because it's fun. Sorry. What we're going to do now is to give a little bit of a gap here. Let's have a look at how big that gap is. I'm going to allow about just less than 1/4 of an inch. And then I'm going to bring the wire up and away. So that's coming out at one side. It's not completely at 90 degrees. It's more like 45 degrees and it's coming up and away from my design. We're then going to return to our round nose pliers and I'm going to use the same size loop again. Draw that wire all the way around like so. And I just want to show you something actually. I'm going to make this really ugly. Oh no, it's ugly. So you can mess things up and then you can give that end a little bit of a wiggle. Rotate those pliers around and you can make it beautiful again. So you don't want to do that too many times because you'll over harden the wire, and over hardened wire is brittle. And especially if you squish down like that, where one piece of wire crosses over or under another piece, it can get quite dramatic and it can just shatter, which is always a bit rubbish. So in fact, I'm not going to put it on that end. I'll use this. Let's imagine that this is the end, the other end of our project. So the other end of our bracelet or our necklace, whatever we're working, we're going to slide it in as if it's just another rosary link. Close up that loop. And then what we're going to do is to grip the round form. Let's just grab that out of the way for a second. Gripping across the round form without squishing down on the preceding rosary link or the wire that's passing over the core. And we're going to rotate that around. Now, a lot of the time I get quite excited because I've just finished a piece of jewellery and I rush this. The slower you do this, the neater your project will end up. And if you've already spent an hour making a project, don't waste it by making a half-hearted attempt at a clasp. Just take your time. Get those rotations, those coils really, really neat and tidy. And then we're just going to rotate all the way along until we get to just before that first loop where we started. And there we go. A couple more rotations. And I just want to bring this, it's almost like a coil spring, so that it just touches. Now you can see that that last rotation was a bit hurried and a bit baggy, so I can still close that up using the exact same technique. Made that a little bit neater. And if you're very gentle, you can grip that coiled section if you need extra purchase just to get those last few coils in. So I'm going to turn that sideways so you can see where we're going to finish up. So just before the point at which we get to that first little loop, that's when I'm going to trim the wire away. We've got just over 1 inch left now. That goes into the melt pot. And again, that's a little bit baggy up at the top there, so I'm going to give that a squish, draw that down neatly, and we'll use that same trick again of rotating the pliers around. But I just need to tighten that up first to make sure that it doesn't come loose. Just rotate around until you get that wire to sit down neatly. It does really help if you can just gently hammer up at the top there, but you've protected your J hook now. So you have an alternative, And let's just connect this into the oversized loop that we made on one side. It is round wire, Sunny. Yes, it's the Soft Flex craft wire in bare copper that came in the kit. It's all 18 gauge. So I'm just going to connect it all together. And I realised that this is a very large bracelet or a very small necklace, but you can see the point of the J clasp. You can also see how beautiful the copper tones with that gunmetal clasp. Let me just flip this over so that you can see our friendly little fella just down here.
I am loving that clasp. Thank you so much, Jem.
No problem at all. I'd like to bring a little bit of added value if I can.
Yeah. Did you use the 18 gauge you said for it, right?
I did. It's all created with the 18 gauge wire.
Awesome.
With
Fabulous.
the clasps I'm making at home, you can use a heavier wire, but if you give this a hammer, it will absolutely work.
Yeah, we have a product called the Wire Whacker too, which is like 2 pieces of nylon kind of blocks, and you could just slam them together. So you can always stick it inside of your wire whacker before you do the coiling. Because once you coil,
I have a memory
yeah.
of the wire whacker. Okay, and I have to tell you this. I have to tell you this now, otherwise I'm going to completely crease up. I'm just going to put my other camera on for a second.
Do it. Do you want me to come back?
I used to work in shopping TV, and I used to demonstrate jewelry making tools and products. And I brought the wire whacker to air in about 2015. And it was my very first show, which is why it's a fond memory for it. It's my very first show on telly. And I was so nervous that I did this with it. And if you're bored, you can pretend to be a horse. And it haunts me. It haunts me to this day. So yes, there's that.
I love that. That was one of those things that you just on the fly that came to you in the moment, and now
I've regretted it ever since. So yes, you're absolutely right though, Kristen. I'm sorry I cut you up there. You absolutely do. Before you put the coils on, do your whacking then. That's fantastic. I love it.
It really turned out quite nice. And
it's beautiful.
You know, I'm surprised I've never done it before. I have squeezed with the nylon jaw pliers to do a little work hardening, but I hadn't just used my pliers. So that was really neat. I think because a lot of our wire is coated, that if I were to just use my pliers, you could nick it a little bit, but on the bare copper, you don't have to worry about that. So you can just go straight in. So I really enjoyed the little work hardening, and I went through all of my loops on my bracelet and did a little work hardening on them, which I've never done that before either. So that was a really nice tip. Thank you for that.
Well, thank you very much for allowing me to play with your beautiful products. Absolutely fabulous. I've had a great time. Thanks for having me.
It was such a good time. And, you know, sorry about Miss Reba. I put myself on mute. She was barking away down there. I don't know what it was, but she tends to like to say hello occasionally on the videos. So
my dogs will often appear on my YouTube videos. One of them will walk in the room and they'll get down. I keep a bed in here when I'm working. And then the other one is completely neurotic. Joey dog, he's my rescue. He's a border collie cross, I don't know, like wolf or something.
Right. So he's a little hyper.
He is absolutely hyperactive, yeah. Border collie with Springer Spaniel and something.
And a little wolf in there. Well,
a little wolf or maybe a badger. I don't know.
Speaking of wolf, we've got Wolfman as the hashtag happening right now in the comments. So go ahead and add your Wolfman hashtag in the comments to enter our giveaway. I'm going to give away a supply kit from Softlex Company for the Monster Mash party that we're in right now. So let me see how many. We've got 89 of you that have entered. We've got over 100 of you watching us right now. So go ahead and have your last chance of getting in the giveaway drawing. I will choose one winner. You have to be here when I call your name. So be sure to let me know that you're here in the comments if your name is called. And we'll give you a few minutes. If your name is called and we don't hear from you, I'm going to choose another winner. So, all right, we've got a few more of you. Oh yeah, Cindy is saying she hasn't seen the pliers work hard in the wire before either. So thank you so much for that tip. And man, were those the most beautiful double wire wrapped links I've ever seen. How about you all? I mean, I'm not going to show you a close up of my double wire wrap but I really am happy with my J. It's called a J clasp. Is that what it's called?
I've always called it a J hook because
J hook.
I mean, it's not really a J, is it? But you know, that's what I refer to.
It kind of has a J, I think, before you bend it and start coiling, I guess, right?
Yeah, I mean, the S clasp is much easier to see why it's called an S clasp.
Yeah, and that would be very similar, I would think. You just kind of loop back the other way instead of making a coil. Is that
absolutely
correct?
And that is so much fun to hammer.
Yeah.
I encourage you all to get a steel block and a hammer. Just have some fun. Mind your fingers.
Just get it all out. Get it all out. Okay, cool. Let's go ahead and share this giveaway screen. Oh, there we go. That's we've got 95 of you in the entry, and I'm going to go ahead and draw our winner right now. Good luck, everyone. We had so much fun hanging out with Jem here for this last hour. So go check her out at Jem Hawks on YouTube, and you'll find all the links to all of her different socials from there as well. Congrats, Kathy. Well, that zoomed in really quickly. Kathy, Mike 7559 on YouTube. Are you still here? If you are our lucky winner for the Softflex Company Monster Mash Supply Kit. Yes, she is here. Hooray!
Excellent.
So Kathy,
congratulations,
Kathy, Mike, please go ahead and send us an email at info@softflexcompany.com. Let us know your shipping address and we will get your prize out in the mail to you. I'll just pop that up on screen there, just in case you didn't know what I was saying. The info@softflexcompany.com is where you'll send your shipping address and we'll get your prize out to you. Congratulations, Kathy. Thank you so much, Jem. Let me stop sharing my screen here. And we also have Abbi hanging out in the background. So let's go ahead and bring Miss Abbi in as well. Look at you with your spooky background, Abbi.
Nicely done.
I don't have a costume on like you guys, so I figured I'd at least be a little spooky.
You did great. That looks beautiful behind you.
Thank you.
Pulled that together. Thank you so much, Jem. We had a lovely time with you, and we look forward to making more jewelry with you in the future. Appreciate you.
Thank you so much for having me. Have an amazing next hour with Abbi. It's lovely to meet you on the crossover. And I will see you again very soon, guys. Look after yourselves. Mwah.
Mwah. Bye, Autumn. Oh, Abbi, hooray! Hi. Lovely to see you.
Good to see you. I love your costume.
Thank you. I'm sort of trying it out. I've got the tail is not on right now, but I will be wearing that tomorrow. And I have a different dress that I will be wearing tomorrow. But I went to the thrift store searching for some items and ended up with this cardigan as well.
Nice. Super cute.
So, all decked out for the holiday. Happy Friday the 13th.
Thanks. Same to you.
How are things?
We've been kind of lucky over here. We were supposed to get bad weather, but it's held out. So I don't know. I'm hiding away in my metals room in the back. So I have no windows to look out. But when I snuck back here, the weather was still okay. So lucky so far. How's your Friday the 13th?
Yeah, it's good. It's good. Fridays are always nice. I always have a good time on Friday. Just got that, that TGIF air to it. Yep. And speaking of, I think you have a sale happening after this today. Do you?
I do. Yeah, we have a whatnot sale at 6 p.m. Central with fair trade beads from Ghana. We have a nonprofit here at the bead shop. If you guys don't know, I'm from the Bead Place. We have a brick and mortar bead store in the St. Louis area. This weekend we've got Melody McDuffie and Soul of Somania here. So we're doing some whatnot fun over on the Whatnot app after this.
Oh, fantastic. I love trade beads. They're always so beautiful. I know you've been sharing some projects and some things on your page the last few days. So pretty exciting. Let me go ahead and change our giveaway, because before I forget and get carried away here, let's so we're moving on to mummy.
Nice.
Hashtag mummy. So for Abbi,
what it was going to be during my time.
Oh yeah, this is something we had so many, time slots, and I wanted to give away 4 prizes. I thought, well, let's just change the hashtag each time, and this way we can easily count up for everyone's hour. And so you have another chance of winning the Softflex Monster Mash supply kit this hour with Abbi. You just got to stick around to the end, use the hashtag mummy, and you will be entered into the drawing to win. So as Abbi was saying, she is from the Bead Place. You can find her at thebeadplace.net. You can find her also in a brick and mortar store. Where are you located, Abbi?
We are in Fairview Heights, Illinois, which is technically like the St. Louis area, but on the Illinois side.
They also sell yarn in addition to beads, and they do classes for both jewelry making and yarn making, all sorts of good stuff. So lots of fun. Abbi always comes up with some fantastic design ideas, and today is no exception. And I believe you also included some items from your shop in our supply kit. Is that right?
Yeah, yep. The little skeleton, silver-plated little dancing. I don't know if they're dancing or sitting or doing yoga. I don't know what they're doing, but they're cute.
I know. I thought they were dancing. Yeah. So was everything in this little package from you?
Yeah, the check glass ravens, and then the vintage acrylic pumpkins.
Awesome. I love all of them. And these little ravens, I really wanted to use these in a design on my Monday video, but I think Rachel ended up using them in her project. So I was like, oh, I will wait and make something with those later.
We've been having a lot of fun with those birds lately. They're kind of like the hot topic on Planet Bead right now, I think.
Are they? Yeah, they're super cute. Do you have them in other colors?
We do. We do. Couple different colors of black, like different washes, and then other typical bird colors and non-typical bird colors.
Super cool. Yeah, they're just like an adorable shape. They'd be perfect at just like the bottom of an earring. They're awesome for a little charm. I think Rachel used them in as a wire wrapped in her necklace. So they're just like a super cute little squat bird.
Yeah. Very like a sturdy bird.
Sturdy. Yeah, I like that. Sturdy. I was like, it's like such a cute squat bird. So is there anything else you want to share with us before we get started, Abbi?
Just that I'm super grateful to be here and excited to hang out with you guys this hour and make some fun stuff.
Awesome. Always a good time hanging out with Abbi from the Bead Place. So do you need to do any maneuvering of your camera?
Yep, I'm transitioning right now.
Look at that magic.
I gotta come back to you. Hold on one second. Okay, now I can see myself. Well, my mat at least. So,
look at that beautiful table. What a lovely setup.
Oh, thanks. I was sitting here watching Jem make the beautiful copper links, and I thought, okay, I'm gonna use this time wisely rather than just like staring at my screen in awe, and I'm gonna set things out in an appealing kind of way. So
they were some gorgeous. There were some gorgeous links. They sure were. I was making links along with her, and they're not quite as lovely.
Yeah. I just didn't even try. I'm kind of one of those I'm one of those people that like has to do one thing at a time, so I can't watch and follow along. I have to watch it, maybe watch it again, and then put all my concentration onto the project. And
that makes sense. I'm sure there's a lot of you watching now that like to do that too, that kind of hang with us for the live and then come back on the replay and spend a little time making a little later after you've had a chance to really take it all in.
Yeah. Yep. Well, I think if it's okay with you, Kristen, we can just kind of go ahead and get started talking about some of the pieces that I'm going to use in my bracelet today and kind of how it all goes together.
That sounds great. Take it away.
All right, let's do it. So we are going to be using 2 different colors of the soft flex that is included in your supply kit. I am using 2 feet of each color. If you want to use 4 feet of one color or 4 feet of the other color, that's fine. I just liked the kind of dual tone look. So I already went ahead and cut my 2 feet sections, and I just went ahead and used a flex cutter to do that. The beads that I am using are going to be these super sparkly European style beads with the rhinestones in them. I have 3 of them. I've got 2 of these gorgeous crystal rondelles in black. I have this super fun checkered bead. And I don't know if anybody in chat is a fan of ska music, but I can't not get checkered stuff because it reminds me of ska music. So that's one of the reasons why I just had to snag this one.
I was not surprised to see you grab that one.
So I also grabbed some of these beautiful, I think, are they resin maybe? I don't know what they are, but they're super fun and super soft, maybe silicone. But I have 3 of each of the colors, lime green, hot pink, and purple. And then I'm going to use one of my little dancing skeleton cutie pies. And I have 3 crimps for this project, but you can kind of get creative and close your bracelet in a couple of different ways. And I'm going to show you that as we go. So the first thing that I want you to do is cut your soft flex. And then we are going to overlap the middle, I guess the like half of one length of your black soft flex and the opposite half of your copper soft flex. So let me put this in a U shape so it's easier for you to see. So I just have about a foot of my soft flex overlapping. So I have my tape measure here just so that I can be precise, but you don't have to be as precise. I just don't want to mess up with like 100 of you watching me. So I'm going to measure. Okay, so I have, just to kind of make sure I have this fully explained to you, I have 1 foot of black soft flex, and then the next foot of black soft flex is held together with the first foot of the copper colored soft flex. And then I have an empty foot of copper colored soft flex. So I hope that that makes sense. And I know it's going to make more sense as we go on if you're still a little confused at my explanation there. So I'm going to string one of the 2x2 crimp tubes to right where those wires first overlap. I'm going to grab my magical crimper and I'm going to crimp it so that these 2 become one, like the Spice Girls song. So I laid my crimp bead right in the middle of my tool and I'm squeezing so that it looks like ravioli. I'm going to rotate it to, oh, didn't squeeze hard enough, I guess. I'm going to squeeze it again. I'm going to rotate it to the side and I'm going to squeeze again, rotate it to the side, squeeze again. And I'm trying really hard to stay in frame. I have my camera set up so that the focus is kind of in the sweet spot, right between super close up and then wide enough that you can see what I'm talking about with this wire. So Kristen, if you could let me know if I am wandering off screen.
So far, so good, but I'll give you a heads up if I see it. Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you. So I am just crimping, crimping, crimping until it's round. And then we're going to do the pull test. So pull, 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 and we're good. And let's say for any reason your crimp wasn't perfect and you didn't pass the pull test. If you don't have, if you can't get that crimp off to try again, what you can do is just give it just the smallest pinch with the tip of your pliers and then just kind of go around it a couple more times. And then I I guarantee it'll pass the pull test. So what we're going to do now is we're going to trim that tail end of the copper soft flex off, or at least short enough that it's not going to bother us. And then we are going to start stringing some of the fun silicone brightly colored beads. I'm going to clear some of this stuff out of the way just so that it's easier for you guys to see what I'm doing. And I'm going to set my crimps off to the side in this corner, so when I lose them later, you guys can tell me where they are. So what I'm going to do now is I am going to lay my beads out in an order that I'm happy with. You can do it at random, or you can kind of do it intentionally, whatever you want to do. I just like to make sure that I don't have the same two color right next to each other, but of course, do what you want to do. So first, I am going to string one of these disc beads onto the copper wire or the long wire, and then I'm going to take my black wire through it as well. So it's on both of the wires there. Now I'm just going to string my next bead onto the copper wire. And then my next bead goes on both the wires again. And because they're two different lengths, you kind of have to be intentional about your spacing. So after that, I'm going to have a bead that only has one wire going through it. But this time I'm picking the other wire. So now I'm picking the black wire. And I'm going to hold that a little closer just so you can kind of get a better look at what's going on here. Every other bead has two wires going through it. And then the ones that have just one wire going through it, the wire that is going through it is swapped each time. All right, so I'm actually going to string all of my disc beads like this. So 2 wires now through the purple. And you can get creative and use any of these beads to do this technique. I just kind of like doing color block sections when I'm using kind of like bright or not necessarily mismatched, but vibrant kind of attention grabbing beads. So that way it doesn't look as messy. It looks a little bit more intentional, but you of course are welcome to do whatever you want to do. So I've got the copper solo through the pink bead. Then I'm going to do both of these wires through the purple bead. And you can see as I'm working that I'm leaving a little bit of space here for movement. Oh, I flung a black bead. So next we're going to do a solo wire. And then our last bead that we're going to do with this section is going through both of them. And then we're going to go ahead and grab another crimp bead. Now you can see that I've spaced these together pretty closely. If you want to crimp really close here and cut this tail end of wire off, you totally can. But for this one, I'm going to space them so that they're pretty evenly spaced over that overlapped foot of wire that we have in the middle. You might get a little bit more movement that way. All right, so I think that's pretty good. And they will float around a little bit. We do want a little bit of movement with this design, but kind of setting it up so that the doubled wire beads are in between each of the single wire beads kind of adds a little bit more structure to the design. So at this point, I've grabbed my crimp bead and I'm going to string it to the copper wire and then down over the tail end of my black wire. So I'm going to crimp that just like we did before. Bring it a little closer so you can see it.
So for this one, are you extending you're kind of adding similar to what we did in the beginning where you've got 2 wires to 1. So you're kind of extending it. Is that right?
Yes, exactly. So I'm not necessarily adding any length to this. Sorry guys, I don't know why it's wanting to focus in that back corner. Let me see if I can move back a little bit. I think it'll probably be a little bit easier to see once I get this section done. But essentially what's happening is you are overlapping 1 foot of each of these 2-foot sections of wire, so that instead of having a 4-foot section of wire, we just have a 3-foot section of wire. And the middle half, or I guess the middle third, I should say, is overlapped. So this, from this side, is black wire, and my black wire stops here. From this side is copper wire, and my copper wire stops here. So all of this is overlapped wire. This is just black. This is just copper. And I think that this kind of construction method adds a little bit of stability to these kind of like floaty bangles. But there are other ways to do it. If you don't want to have this overlapped section, you could just kind of start with just the method that I'm going to show you next. So if this was a little bit confusing, no worries. You can kind of just skip to the next step. So at this point, what I'm going to do is I'm going to figure out a good size for my bangle. Now, we can make these a little bit smaller than the typical bangle size that you would normally wear, because you can kind of almost, I don't want to say you can stretch them, but you can kind of manipulate the size. So it needs to be able to roll on. So it should fit like a tight bangle. But then once you get it on, what happens is you can kind of pull some of these strands out and it'll fit a little bit tighter, more like a bracelet with a clasp. So you can get this really funky look that fits you a little bit tighter and more comfortably than a classic bangle. So
that's
with that being
super
said,
interesting. That is so interesting. I'm so excited to see how that ends up doing that.
It's definitely one of my favorite ways to feature just the beautiful different colors that Softlex jewelry wire comes in. I can't tell you how many of these kind of like floating wiry bangles I have, and how many different variations I've done with them over the years. It's just kind of my favorite way to feature Softlex wire. So what I'm doing here is I'm holding my hand in a way that can almost make it like its smallest, if that makes sense. And I'm going to hold my bangle overlapped so that I can get an idea of what my bangle size needs to be. So it's about like that. And I'm just going to kind of remember that at this point. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to string on these fun little European beads in that overlapped section. So if you want to anchor this with the bead stopper for the time being, you can, but I'm just going to wing it just because I know how adjustable these bracelets can be. You don't really have to be super precise with your sizing, because you can adjust it as you go up until the very last crimp, really. So I have just strung my wire through these European beads. And what I am doing is I'm just using these almost like an anchor bead. Like if you're familiar with square stitch, your wire is just kind of overlapped. This wire is going that way through the bead. This wire is going that way through the beads. And I'm just pretending like these 3 beads are all one bead. So I just realized I missed a step. I forgot to trim my tail end off of that previous crimped bead. So pretend like I did that earlier. But I'm going to give you a good look now at how this kind of functions. So we have our bangle overlapped here, and this almost operates like a slide knot at this point, so we can still go in and adjust the size. So now is where we can kind of get creative and start adding in these accent beads wherever we want. And now what we're going to do is just kind of start weaving it around. So let's start with the copper wire. What I'm going to do is I am going to skip this first bead, and I'm going to go through the purple bead like that. So this bead, this green bead already has 2 wires going through it. So I'm just going to skip it and go through the purple bead. And then let's add a black rondelle. And then let's skip the pink bead and go through the green bead. And you can see we're kind of creating this interesting netting, but we still have a lot of fun movement. So I'm going to go in to the other side now, and let's do the checkered bead. I'm going to, actually, I'll go through the pink bead first and then add the checkered bead. That way we have a little bit of symmetry. Symmetry is not really my strong suit, but we'll do a little bit of symmetry here. So I've gone through the pink bead. Now I'm going to add the checkered bead on my black wire. I'm going to skip the next bead, which for me is the purple bead. I'm going to go through that next pink bead. And if this seems like a lot to pay attention to, don't worry, because you can take this wire through any of these beads, and as long as you're keeping the same kind of basic size, it should work out beautifully. The goal is just to kind of create a loose net with movement that still fits you. So even at this point where I've woven through several beads, I can still go in and adjust my sizing very easily. All I'm going to do is just put my fingers in between here and just kind of pull on my tail ends of wire. And it's going to work like a sliding knot or like a slip knot on a bracelet. And you can see that these 3 kind of European beads are almost like acting like the slide knot. So let's go in and add our last crystal. How am I going to add him in? Let's see. I think, ooh, wouldn't it be fun to pass 2 wires through him? Let's get a little different. So I'm going to add it to the copper wire, and then I'm going to add the black wire through it in the opposite direction. And that'll make this one have a little bit more rigidity to it. And it'll almost make it stick out more, because you'll notice the beads that have more wires running through them, they kind of want to just like jut out a little bit. So if you want to feature one of these beads, I should have done it with the checker because that's my favorite, but maybe I'll make another one. If you want to feature one of these beads, you can kind of use that trick to make sure you're adding multiple wires through it, and then it'll almost kind of just stand out. So at this point, I'm going to make sure my sizing is perfect. And I'm going to do that just by making sure I can roll it on. And I can. We're good. So now I'm going to start kind of squishing some of these beads where I want them to be. And I'm really going to start weaving the wire in until I get the wire to a point where they cross over each other and then can't make another cross. So I am going to, let's see, I'm just going to kind of weave in and out. I'm going to leave some beads with just maybe 1 or 2 wires going through them, and then just kind of work my way around the bracelet. And I have my glasses on, but I know I'm missing some comments. So if anybody has any questions or anything, I'm not trying to ignore you. I know Kristen will tell me if anybody has questions, but
Yeah, more than questions, you're just having a lot of people say how cool this is, that
Oh,
they love.
yay.
So you're getting a lot of those. So
Love it.
I'll pop a few of those up on screen.
Oh, thank you.
This is way cool from
So
Melanie.
you can see at this point that we're almost getting a little bit of height on this bracelet. I hope you guys can see that. It's hard with tiny stuff. You can see that we're almost building like a basket or a net. That's not always going to happen. It kind of depends on your path. Like you see how this one is a little bit more flat in my design. You can just kind of get creative and have fun. One thing that I do probably want to mention is that when you're passing over these kind of like orbital beads that act as your almost anchors, I would take the wire through all of those again. You can go top and bottom like this and kind of sandwich them in. Oh my goodness, they're so sparkly. My camera doesn't know what to do with them.
They are so sparkly.
Let me put my hand behind it. There we go. So you can take the wire on the top and bottom if you want to sandwich them in. But I love having just like something different in the design. So I like leaving those out. And so the easiest way for me to do that and make sure that the design is still cohesive and solid and sturdy and anchored is we're just going to make sure to take the wire through these disc beads on either side and then through these large hole beads. So I'm going to do that with my copper wire. I'm going to do that with my black wire. And now I don't have enough wire to go around again. So now is where I crimp. So I'm going to find my last crimp, or I think I elbowed it off the table. So in that case, I'm going to grab one more from the bag.
I love how like wildly interesting this design looks and how forgiving it is for adding more beads and moving things around. Yeah, it's really cool, Abby.
Thank you. So at this point, we have a couple options for how to add our charm on. One of my favorite ways to add a charm on is when we're doing our last crimp, what you can do is, well, I'll show you. I'm getting a little ahead of myself. So we're going to add our crimp onto the black wire, and then we're going to take the copper wire through it in the opposite direction. And then before we finish it off, what we're going to do is we are going to take the charm and string it directly onto the wire, and then take the wire back through the crimp again. And so that creates this cute little loop where you have almost like a built-in jump ring or veil for your charm. And it just sits off to the side and hangs down super cute like that. So that is definitely a super easy and fun way to add your charm on. But I'm going to show you an even more funky way. And if you're not into loopy wire and messy looks, this may not be for you. You might want to stick with that first way that I showed you, but it's super fun. So I'm going to crimp this one off real quick. Actually, I'm going to check for size since I just almost mangled it trying to do that.
So at this point, you're crimping the two ends together to kind of complete the bracelet, right?
Exactly. Yeah, I'm overlapping them just like you would like an overhead or an over the head necklace. So I'll bring it in. I was trying to stay back because I know for some reason my camera's not wanting to focus close up, but you can see that it's overlapped.
Thomas says this bracelet looks like the electricity that resurrects Frankenstein in a black and white movie. I love that.
It does. That's hilarious. All right, one more check for fit. Looks like we're good. So now I'm going to crimp. And ravioli. Crimp the sides in. Crimp the other side. Around and around and around until it is a beautiful little ball. And let's do a pull test. Super secure. Okay, so we're going to trim these tail ends off. And these crimps end up looking like cute little beads. See how it just looks like a 2 millimeter little bead on there? You can cut a little closer if you want. You don't have to. But what we're going to do now is that kind of extra tip for adding your charm.
Before you go there, Abby, I just want to answer. I've got a couple of people asking about the items in this design. So, Carol, this coral, actually, sorry, excuse me, this was a kit. It was the Monster Mash Jewelry Making Party kit. You get the supply kit from Softlex Company, and you get the bead kit from Jesse James Beads. We do still have some of the supply kits left, which will give you the beading wires that we're using today, along with the crimps and the charms. However, the bead kit from Jesse James Beads at their website, jessejamesbeads.com, has sold out. You can pick up other beads from their website that may go along with this spooky theme. All of the checkered beads you're seeing, the rondelles, and those really colorful little silicone spacers, and the super sparkly green beads were from jessejamesbeads.com in their Monster Mash kit. They may have similar items still available if you check out their website. So I hope that helps.
Definitely.
Okay,
all
back
right.
at you.
So I'm just going to take this scrap piece of black wire, and I'm going to almost create a loopy little jump ring out of it. So I'm going to string my charm onto it, and I am going to loop over my bracelet. I'm going to take one of the ends of wire through the charm again and around the bracelet. And
that's very true. Sorry. Nancy's saying, or beads from Abbi. Yes, you can find beads from Abbi at thebeadplace.net too.
Sure, but these beads are really, really cute. So I would say that Jesse James Beads would be your best bet for these neons. We don't really do too much in the silicone here at the Bead Place. So I think your best bet would be to look on the Jesse James Beads site. So I've got a doubled loop here, and now I'm going to do that same kind of crossover technique that I did before to finish the bracelet, and tighten it just a smidge just by pulling those tail ends, but we still want it to have some movement, and we might even make it big enough so it can travel over these beads. Yeah, let's do that. That sounds fun. So we've got this like little doubled loop, and once we crimp this, it'll almost kind of like splay out, if that makes sense. And it'll just kind of catch in between some of the beads. So before I crimp this, I'm going to find a spot where it focuses. There we go. Okay, so I'll crimp it and then give you a closer look, and then I'll cut those ends. I always find that if I leave the ends on and show it one more time before I cut them, it's a little bit easier to understand what wires are going where if you didn't quite catch the first part. So here's what we have. Our skeleton is hanging down. The wire has gone through it twice. We've got this little loop that we've created, and we have connected the loop with our crimp bead, and then we're going to trim the tail ends off, and I'm going to show you how he just kind of travels around and sits wherever he wants. So see how fun that is?
He dances around the bracelet.
Yeah, our little dancing skeleton.
Oh my gosh.
So there's a lot of movement to this design, and you can, like I said, when you put it on, you can cinch it a little bit tighter. A lot of people don't necessarily love bangles because they feel a little loose. But what's so great about bangles with soft flex wire is you just kind of pull on some of the random wires. You don't have to do it as extreme as what I'm doing it here, but I just am trying to demonstrate to you how you can really cinch this bangle, and then it becomes a really comfortable kind of wacky bracelet. So
this is so much fun. Oh my gosh.
It is definitely one of my favorite ways to use soft flex wire.
He's doing the Halloween hustle. Yeah, he is.
He's kind of he's almost like a hula dancer. He just wiggles back and forth.
Dancing skeleton, adorable. The bangle idea is so cute. Sherry loves the colors. Yeah,
Yeah,
you
the
just
curations were great. You guys did a great team kind of like mashup with Jesse James Beads. You guys always do a great job, but I had a lot of fun with these colors.
Yeah, this was a really fun. It was a really fun theme and color selection, I think, this time. Super, super cute. So I made one with Abby. I didn't get a chance to add my my dancing skeleton yet, but I want to say that I got a little confused in the beginning, but you know what? It doesn't matter.
Right. It doesn't matter at all.
I was first like, oh, wait, you know what it was? Because I didn't pull my wires out until after you got started. Silly me.
Okay.
So by the time I got all my materials, you had already kind of moved on. But it didn't matter. I caught up, and this design is super forgiving and really, really, someone said whimsical.
Yes. Yeah.
Totally whimsical, a lot of fun, and I can see how you could do this in so many different ways. And Kristen says she can't wait to try it. It's so cute. It's so cute. And I can even see, like, I mean, maybe this is wild, but like these are pretty big, but how fun would that be as an earring?
Oh, so fun. And also lightweight, because most of the impact is the wire. So you don't have to have a ton of beads on there.
I think this could be such a fun and interesting. Obviously, black is not a great look for me with my dark hair, but if I had lighter hair, the black would be awesome. Or if I choose Softlex colors that are brighter, it would be like, what is happening on that earring? You know, it's just like such a cool design. Yes, Julie, I know you would. Julie says, I would wear those earrings. You are my big jewelry partner in crime.
I feel like pink color of Softlex that I have made a handful of these bangles with, and like I think I did pearls and like the super iridescent AB crystals. And it is just like one of my most popular designs of all time. Like the brighter and the wilder and the more like glam and iridescent you can make them, the hotter they'll fly off your booth tables.
So cool. And Anessa is saying add more charms. Yeah, you could totally add charms all around it if you wanted to make it a fun charm bracelet and turn it into having lots of charms dancing around with your skeleton. I think that would be a great idea. A lot of people can't wait to watch the replay on this one for sure and give it a look. I think the main key, if you don't have these particular beads, and they are really fun for those of you that did get the kit. I mean, these are very neon fun beads. But if you don't have these, you just want to make sure whatever beads you pick up that you can get probably 3 strands of Softlex in them. So 3 to 4, I would say.
Yeah. Or at least have just like maybe 1 or 2 beads that'll be like your anchor bigger hole beads, because I don't know if you remember the Jupiter bangle bracelet that I did for Customer Appreciation Week.
I remember. I loved that one too.
Similar, and there was only 1 bead that could pass through multiple strands. Oh. And it was like pretty darn similar to this, but all the other beads had small holes.
I think you can still find that one. Did you do a YouTube video for that specifically, or was that a different year?
I think that was a different year. There was one year that I was sick and made a video after the fact, but I think Jupiter's Bangle is on your YouTube channel.
It is. So Jupiter's Bangle is on the Softlex Company YouTube channel, and you can find that one. It is similar, but like Abby said, she just had the 1 focal bead, and then she had smaller hole beads all the way around. And I think you did that with heavy Softlex beading wire, and it was gorgeous. It was really cool. So that's like this idea-ish, but maybe a little more on the elegant side, whereas this is the more like fun and funky side. So cool. Everyone is loving this design. Oh my gosh, so many wonderful comments for you.
Thanks.
Oh,
guys.
Jenifer, you says I have that bracelet and made it. I love it. You're talking about the
Yes.
Jupiter one. Yeah, it was just, I remember when I first saw that one come across when you did that design, and I was like, boom, that's genius. It's like, it was so cool. I just loved it.
I love designs that just show the wire because it's beautiful wire. And I just want that to be the pop.
Yeah. Yeah. We appreciate that. It's really nice. And it does show all of you that you can really use that wire in a way that maybe you didn't think about before, to really show it off and let it do its thing. Right. All right, let's see who we've got. We've got a prize going on. So if you're just joining us or tuning in and you missed it in the beginning, comment with the hashtag mummy, and you'll be entered to win one of the Monster Mash supply kits from Softlex Company. Since we do still have a few left, I think we had maybe 10 or so. We're giving one away right now. It'll be the last giveaway of our Monster Mash jewelry making party. But you can also grab the supply kit if you haven't gotten that yet. It does not have all of the beads that we use, but it does have all of the wires. It has the charms, it has the crimps, and those really cute beads from Abbi, the acrylic,
Raven.
vintage acrylic.
Yeah.
Pumpkins, and those really cool, squatty, sturdy ravens. Stout, very
strong.
stout raven. Yeah. So we've got 89 people that have entered our giveaway so far. We've got 120 of you joining us here watching. So
wow.
I will give you another moment. And just to repeat, Abbi, you've got something else going on right after this today. What time is that?
It's at 6 p.m. Central over on the Whatnot app. And while you're over there checking out the Whatnot app, Softlex Company's on Whatnot too.
We are. So if you haven't checked it out yet, go check out Whatnot. Join Abbi. You are at the Bead Place?
Yeah. Yep, at the Bead Place. And we're doing African fair trade beads tonight, supporting a nonprofit in Ghana.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
I love it. And you have somebody there all week with you doing like a trunk show and stuff? Or?
So she's been in the store since Wednesday. She's not here today because she's not feeling very well. But I believe she'll be back in the store tomorrow. So I think it's just me and Alex on the stream tonight, but she might be in chat, just kind of like correcting us if we say anything wrong.
Her beads will be there. Oh, and Sarah is saying we're planning a Whatnot for next Friday. So we hope to join you for another bead train next Friday on the Whatnot app.
So Friday is preview party, isn't it?
It is preview party. That's right. So we probably will go on earlier than preview party. The Great Bead Extravaganza is happening next weekend. There's just so much going on. I'm totally just taking it day by day and forgetting what's happening. So we've got the Great Bead Extravaganza happening next weekend. Abbi is one of the wonderful presenters at the Bead Place in the Great Bead Extravaganza event that we put on. It's a collective. It's a wonderful event. If you don't know what I'm talking about, go check us out on Facebook. You can join the Great Bead Extravaganza Facebook group where everyone is kind of hanging out and sharing things all year long. And you can join the Great Bead Extravaganza Facebook page where we go live and do all of the event weekend activities. It also gets shared into the group. So it's best to just be both places so that you get all of the deets. We have the preview party kickoff next Friday at 5 p.m. Pacific time, where we get to show you all of the things we have planned for the weekend. And then you've got 2 full days from 8 in the morning to I think 4 or 5 in the evening Pacific time of beading videos, tutorials, demonstrations, sales, and it's just a hoot. So come join us over there next weekend. All right, let's see. We got 94 entries. I'm going to go ahead and pick our winner. Be sure to let me know you're here in the comments. You must be here. So if you don't tell me you're here, I'll have to draw another name. Let's go ahead and see who we've got. Oh, Kristen, we didn't share screen. That's no fun. Oh, no. We got there just in time.
Yay! Congratulations, Sharon.
I was like, oh no, my fingers are fumbling around. Sharon, are you here? Are you here, Sharon, on Facebook? My goodness, I almost missed it. Sarah's here. Hi, Sarah. Vic has an eclipse. Oh, is there eclipse in the morning? Tomorrow morning? Is that?
Oh, is that tomorrow?
I didn't know. If that is tomorrow, that is super cool. Kimberly is asking, have you opened the kit yet, or will that be in the event? Are you talking about the Softlex Company Harvest Moon kit? If that's the one you're discussing, then yes, we're going to open that during the event weekend. So that is when we'll open it and we will make something with it. Sharon is here. Hooray. Congratulations, Sharon. Email us at info@softlexcompany.com and give us your shipping information. We will go ahead and send your Monster Mash supply kit prize out to you. Awesome. Thank you so much for joining us, Abby. If you guys have not checked her out, please be sure to check out the beadplace.net.
Beadplace.net.
Beadplace. I always want to put that in there.
Well, it should be the Beadplace. But we got a website before the internet was really a thing. So we just bought like the cheapest domain, and then we started saying it in all the videos. Here's our website. So it's too late to change it now.
It's too late. It's beadplace.net.
Yeah.
And then she's also got a fantastic YouTube channel. Let us know what that one is too.
It's just Abbi Berta on YouTube. Just my name.
Abbi Berta on YouTube. And you've had that for a really long time.
Yes. Yes, a very long time, like almost 15 years, long time. So
much good stuff on there. I know me personally have definitely gone to Abby's YouTube channel and learned from her. When I was looking for specific designs, she always has a ton of really great tutorials on there to check out. So be sure to follow them. Yeah, be sure to subscribe to them on YouTube. Check out the site at beadplace.net. Head over to Whatnot if that intrigues you and you want to go check us out over there. We'll be doing live sales. Abby will be on tonight. Check her out at the Bead Place on Whatnot. And until next time, we'll see you next weekend.
Bye, everybody. Thank you.
Did I miss anything? Is there anything else you want to add before we go?
I think you got it. You're always really good at like saying all the things that need to be said. And I don't have to do anything.
Yay! It's gotten to the point, I used to have like a list with me, like a little checklist, you know, but it's gotten to the point that it just sort of happens. I don't even know how. It's like when your car drives itself places. And
like,
you're
how did I get here?
How did I get here again? That just sort of kicks into gear. Thank you guys all so much for joining us today. We hope you've had a blast at the Monster Mash, and we look forward to seeing you all next weekend for the Great Bead Extravaganza. Bye.